Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of The Democratic View, and my name is Phyllis Italiano. I am the hostess, and each week I feature some guest. And this week I have a guy here who is not unfamiliar to the people of East Hampton. His name is Steve Tekulsky, and welcome. He is running, by the way, for Town Justice of East Hampton. So we want to know all about you. That's the way I like to start. You know, I've patterned myself after Charlie Rose, and he always tries to find out about who people are. And where are you from?
First of all, thanks for having me. I was born in Brooklyn, but I grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, and I lived there until I went away to college. And then I lived in the city.
Where did you go to college?
I went to Mitchell College for my first 2 years, got an associate's degree there. That's in New London, Connecticut. And then I got my Bachelor of Arts, magna cum laude from Elmira College, where I was also elected to Phi Beta Kappa. Then I went to St. John's University School of Law, and then I started my legal career.
And where did you start your legal career?
I was fortunate enough to be selected as an assistant district attorney in the Manhattan DA's office under Robert Morgenthau.
You know, I was trying to think, well, I read your resume, I was trying to think there's somebody else I know who worked with Robert Morgenthau.
Well, there were 200 assistants when I was there. And over the course of, there were two very long time serving DAs in Manhattan. Frank Hogan, who was the first legendary district attorney. He had died probably 2 or 3 years before I joined the office. And then Mr. Morgenthau, who was there until really it's probably 3 or 4 years ago, when Cyrus Vance Jr. became the next DA. But there's a network of former Manhattan district attorneys. It's expansive and it's pretty impressive. In fact, they used to call it the Hogan-Morgenthau Association for all the alumni, but now they changed the name to the Manhattan District Attorneys Association so as not to offend Mr. Vance. But I'm assuming that if he's there for 30 or 40 years, they'll put his name in it.
So a district attorney does what?
What we did was we prosecute criminal offenses on behalf of the people of the state of New York. And I was in a bureau, and I was there for 4 years, where I handled basically all serious street crimes, robberies, burglaries, assaults, not sex crimes or drugs. Those were separate bureaus. And the last 2 years I was there, I was also on homicide call. Every 24-hour period in the city of New York, there has to be an assistant DA on call because a detective cannot make an arrest for any homicide without the authorization of an assistant DA. Oh. What it frequently involved, was getting a call at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, going to a precinct, sitting across the table from a suspected murderer of some kind, taking a statement if he was willing to talk, and then making a decision whether he should be charged or not, and then handling that case. Also, throughout the couple of years that I was on the homicide chart, I had at least 2 incidents where police officers had shot and killed someone, and those cases are investigated the same way. So that was an interesting experience. I had a tremendous amount of trial experience, and the system that we had allowed us to choose which cases to prosecute that deserved to be prosecuted, put them in the grand jury, do all the hearings, and try the case yourself. So it was a tremendous experience.
And how many years did you do that?
I was there for 4 years.
And then what happened?
Then, there really was an informal commitment to stay for 3 years. And after 4 years, I decided that I wanted something different. So I went to a law firm that did civil trial work so that they were able to take advantage of my trial skills. And we primarily defended doctors and hospitals in medical malpractice cases, very complicated cases. And so for 7 or 8 years I was there. I became a partner at that firm. And again, it involved, a lot of discretion and a lot of trial work. a lot of pretrial work, and that introduced me to the civil side of the law after having spent all the time in the criminal side. And we had owned the house out here. We lived in the city. We had owned the house out here for a couple of years, and our son Alexander was 2 years old, and we used to come out every weekend all year round. And we realized that as he got older that we wouldn't be able to do that because he would have things keeping him in the city. So we just left. I told my partners I was leaving. I wasn't stealing any cases. I wasn't going to a competitor, but we just wanted to live out here.
And where is it, live out here?
East Hampton? Yeah, we live on Cedar Street in East Hampton. We bought the house probably in 27 or 28 years ago for $99,000. That was the last house, probably under $100,000 in East Hampton.
What a buy that was.
Yeah, we thought we'd never be able to afford it, but fortunately we were. And so my partners actually said, look, we have cases in Suffolk County. Why don't you handle all of our Suffolk County cases? Which was great because I didn't know what I was going to do. So for a year or so, I handled cases for them out here. Actually, I had a 6-week-long medical malpractice trial that I won when I first came out here, which helped us get started. And my wife, Stephanie, she owned Steph's Stuff in the Village. At the time, she was an accessory designer, and she could do that any place that UPS picked up. And we started our life out here, full time. My daughter was born a year after we moved out here. And yeah, this is our home. We're not leaving.
And did you go into private practice for yourself?
What I did was I set up a little office in my basement, and I figured that at some point I'd put out a shingle and I would advertise and maybe move into a nice office. And I've never had to do any of those things because fortunately, and I didn't do it for this reason, but the things that I did locally, a lot of people got to know me, and I think some of them liked the idea that they didn't have to go to a formal office or that they could see their attorney in jeans and a T-shirt and know that he'd take care of them as well as anyone dressed up in a suit and tie. So I got a tremendous amount of local business from the time I was out here.
And what are some of those local things that you do?
Well, I started coaching Little League when my son was 4, which was a mistake because I had a coach for 10 years until he was through the system. And I made some tremendous friendships, both with the other coaches, umpires, and kids that I coached that are now in their 30s. And I see them all the time, and they still call me Mr. Tekulsky, which I try to dissuade them from because we're almost like peers. And then a year after I lived here, I joined the East Hampton Fire Department, which besides my family is the biggest commitment I've made to anything. I've been in the fire department for 25 years and served as chief for 2 terms. And, that experience, number one, is, very rewarding. But I've also come to know a lot of people through that experience.
I would imagine that you would know, and that's quite an establishment over there. I mean, we have meetings there every once in a while. When was that building built?
Well, that building was expanded. I mean, originally, before my time, the fire department was on Newtown Lane, and it was small, and I think it's where Scoop du Jour is now, one of those stores. And the police department was separate. And then we moved for a while we were in the VFW because they were expanding the firehouse. And then they expanded it for the ambulance. But yeah, I mean, we're an all-volunteer fire department and ambulance with a very impressive equipment and impressive individuals that know what they're doing.
Thank God.
Yeah, well, there's always a lot of friction between paid firefighters and volunteer firefighters, but fires don't know the difference. Or, car accidents. I'm in the White Knights, which is a group within the fire department of people that are trained with what people call the jaws of life, to extricate people.
Right.
And, yeah, I mean, people, when they get in an accident, they don't care if you're paid or if you're not paid. They want to get out and be safe as quickly as possible. And of all the things I've done in the fire department, frankly, we save more people in many ways in the White Knights than anything else. I mean, we save property, obviously, fighting fires, but in terms of helping people's lives. The White Knights is a very special group of men and women.
And I know there's something else that you do that has to do with some of our wildlife.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because I got to tell you my experience of coming to East Hampton. I was a 35-year Fire Island person. And my friend Nora Ferrari lives out here, and we've taught together. And she said, come and visit me. Well, I drove out here, and I thought, oh, my God, this is so far. I could have been in Fire Island already, you know. And then I entered this town, and I took that turn by that pond and fell madly in love.
Many people have. I am proud to be the unofficial and honorary commissioner of swan activity in the village of East Hampton. I started taking pictures there, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, and I would, share the pictures that I had. I'm not a great photographer, but I spend a lot of time, so I've been fortunate to get some really good shots. The mother with 1 and 2 and 3 babies on her back. And so Mayor Rickenback, with whom I'm friendly, said that I could be the honorary commissioner of swan activity. And I've actually, I've donated pictures to the LVIS. Actually, I donated one this year, and somebody paid $120 for it, so
Wow.
that was pretty neat.
Wow.
But unfortunately, the swans have not done well in Town Pond, so my position may be in jeopardy. What happened is the swans used to nest in Town Pond, right in Town Pond,
Yes.
which was neat because you could watch them build the nest. You could watch them there. About 4 years ago, their nest got flooded out, which is not uncommon because that's where swans decide to go. And for the last 3 years, they've been nesting on Hook Pond Lane. And so they've got the babies have to survive there and be safe from foxes and hawks. And then they have to get over to Town Pond, where they have to be safe from the snapping turtles. So 3 years ago, 7 cygnets made it to Town Pond, which was amazing, but only one of them survived to adulthood. 2 years ago, 3 cygnets made it to Town Pond. None of them survived. And this year, only 1 cygnet made it to Town Pond. And, I knew his chances for survival were not good, and they were not. He didn't make it. But that is, the last two years.
Is it a turtle that gets them, or?
Well, I think one of the problems is however many babies are born in Hook Pond Lane, foxes get them or hawks can get them because they're sort of in the open out there. Once they get to Town Pond, yeah, there are snapping turtles in the pond, so we think that that's what happens to them.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, I know. It's last year was the first year in my 25 years. That makes me a newcomer. In my 25 years, that was the first time I don't recall there being any babies that survived. There are, however, so that's 2 years in a row. There are, I'm pleased to report, 4 cygnets that were born in the nature trail. Even though it's in the village, that's not one of my haunts. But I have seen 4 cygnets that are, they're fine, and they're going to make it.
Oh, good,
to
because,
adulthood.
they're not exactly a friendly animal, but watching them swim is like watching a ballet.
They're very graceful. They are considered an invasive species. Naturalists are not fans of theirs because whatever they take out of their environment, they don't put it back in a healthy way. And they're not from here. They were imported from Europe, so rich people could put them in their ponds.
Ah.
But yeah, they're fun to watch.
Yes, they are. They are wonderful. So now you are at this point where you have had a practice for many years here and are running for the second time as a town justice. And you're opposed by a young man whom I happened to interview at the screening committee. And he's a 38-year-old guy. I'm a little worried. I'd like to see you be able to take it over because I have a sense of your maturity, and I am concerned about your opponent's ability to be compassionate with some of the younger people that will come across his view as a town justice. So what do you see as a town justice are the things that you are going to be interested in working on?
Well, one of the things that, besides having, probably 3 times more legal experience,
Yes.
not to mention almost twice as much life experience, which is as important.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the life experience.
And I've been practicing for 35 years now. 25 years has been spent in East Hampton. And in those 25 years, I've spent a lot of time in this justice court and other justice courts. So I've represented local families in all the kinds of cases that appear in justice court. Obviously, criminal cases are the biggest percentage. But I've also handled evictions. I've handled zoning violations, small claims cases. So, I'm familiar with everything that's done in justice court. And, after having been in front of hundreds of judges in my career, I mean, I have a very, strong idea of what kind of judge I want to be. Number one, I think I have the legal background to make the legal decisions that have to be made. Having seen both sides of these cases as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney, it allows me a perspective that you want to have. A judge, the statue of justice is blindfolded, okay? Now, it's not the best way to do it. You don't want to make decisions blindly, but the concept of that is that the scales are balanced equally and you don't have any predetermined notions. So that, and I would not. I think that people that know me and that have dealt with me, either as clients of mine, other attorneys that I've dealt with on other sides of matters, whether they be criminal or civil, I think they will say that I've always been reasonable and used common sense. I mean, there are attorneys who constantly scream that their clients are correct no matter what. And it's sort of like Peter and the wolf. If you cry wolf all the time, no one's going to believe you when the wolf is really there. So you have to do what's best for your client as an attorney, but you also have to be realistic and reasonable. And that's I think, the best characteristic that I can bring to the bench, that ability to look at things objectively, rationally, with compassion if called for, okay? And dealing with every case on its own merits, but also trying to be consistent in the administration of justice across the board. And I also, and this is one of my pet peeves, and I talked about it the last time I ran, and I'm talking about it again. I'm a big believer in, I think the Justice Court is the court that most people will have their first and perhaps only experience with.
Right.
And it's as important a court as any court for those people that are involved. It has the same jurisdiction as the district court in Central Islip. And if you go into the district court in Central Islip, you feel like you're in a different place, okay? The security officers, act like you're a threat. It's totally different. Yes. So even the difference is this court is set in our neighborhood. So there is a familiarity to it. But the court needs to be respected, but the court needs to respect the people. So the one thing that I will do is if the parties have to be there at 9:30, I'm going to be on the bench at 9:30. Now, I've been before, if I've been before 100 judges, 50% of them are always late, but 50% of them are all on time. I'm on the 50% on time. The practice generally here is that the judges come out at 10 or 10:15 when people have been there since 9:30. I'm not going to do that. I will respect you because these are people, whether they're charged with a crime and have the presumption of innocence, or whether they're there for a civil matter, they're sitting there and they're waiting. And they should not wait unnecessarily for a judge. Judge should be there.
I have to tell you the story about the one and only time I've ever been in a court. We were with the Democratic Committee people demonstrating in front of the windmill at a time when the Arizona law went into effect. And it was an April day, and it was kind of chilly. And I had been having some problems with my stomach. And we finished, and I got into my car, and I put on my seatbelt. And I started to have a little pain. And I went around the corner on Newtown Lane, and I undid my seatbelt because I was feeling pain. And some young kid said, "You don't have your seatbelt on." Pulled me over. I said to him, "Look, I'm not feeling well. I just had been out there. I think I got a little chill, and I'm not well." He didn't care. He wrote me a ticket anyway. I said, "Well, you can write me a ticket, but I'm going to go for court and fight this ticket."
That's why it's there.
And I did, and I went with doctor's reports and things like that because I did go to the doctor after that, and I went into the court, and I have always this habit. It's my old school teacher thing. I counted how many people were in each seat, how many times it by the seats, and I realized there were 250 people there. And I thought, holy mackerel, I may not get out of here till 3 o'clock today. So when they called me up, I pleaded guilty because I had to get out of there. It was either that or I was going to be there. So I said, okay, guilty, and spoke to the judge, and they reduced my fine a little bit. And I said I really wasn't guilty. I was not well. But it would seem to me that traffic ought not to be in with everything else when you just have a traffic ticket for not wearing a seatbelt.
The Wednesdays are traffic days now, and there are a few exceptions because of scheduling, but generally those are all traffic tickets. But your experience is not unusual. And look, you're talking about a traffic offense. You're not talking about a criminal offense.
Right.
But there's just an article in the Times recently about in the Bronx how criminal cases, the delay is so bad that people are pleading guilty when they aren't. And also cases are being dismissed because the prosecutors are losing their witnesses because they just can't, they can't get things done in time. And they say that justice delayed is justice denied. So I'm not saying that, I'm going to make a dramatic change in the course of justice, but if I can get people out of the courtroom more efficiently, I'm going to do it. And if that gives people, more time to, stake their positions rather than pleading guilty because they don't want to stay there all day, I think that's an addition to the justice system.
I was also thinking, well, what if I had a job and I was working?
Well, those are the people that sit in court every day, for the most part. Either they have a job or they have children to take care of.
That's right.
And look, they have an obligation to be in court, obviously, because of the circumstances.
Sure.
But yeah, if they're going to be there, I'm going to be there. So that's my very important pledge.
So,
and everybody says it can't be done, but it can be done.
Of course, I'm sure it can. I'm sure it can if you have the energy and
the will.
And the will.
You have to change.
Political will. It's a very important couple of words we've been hearing lately.
Judicial will.
Yeah, or judicial will, exactly. So how do you like campaigning again?
Yeah, I ran in 2007 against an incumbent judge, which an incumbent judge hadn't been beaten in 20 years. And I only lost by 300 votes. So I campaigned very hard in 2007. It's hard work. And you're either, once you become a candidate or you think about being a candidate, you're either campaigning or you're thinking about campaigning. So, I'm busy with my practice. I'm busy campaigning. I'm still active in the fire department. I have my family. So, yeah, but I enjoy it. I like the support of people that I already know. And I like meeting people that I don't know.
And the good thing is you are also on a very good ticket. I mean, I think you have a winning couple of people surrounding you, which is always a big help. I mean, Larry Cantwell is, I had the opportunity to see him twice, once in the Springs and now just this last week in Montauk. And the man is extremely competent and a man who has interest in doing the right thing for this community, which is sorely in need of a lot of right things happening here. And that can't hurt your candidacy to be with people like that.
I don't want to ignore what you just said. one of the requirements of judicial candidates is that they cannot endorse directly
Oh,
or
I understand that.
indirectly
No, I
another
know that.
candidate, so I will,
Pass.
no comment.
Well, it's my comment, not your comment. I'm saying you're lucky to be with such competent people. And so are you going to all, how do you campaign then if you?
Campaign, I've started campaigning so far by doing the things that I normally do. I mean, I am involved in a lot of activities. I traditionally go to a lot of events, just at the Soldier Ride, at the LVIS Fair, this weekend at the Travis Field softball tournament, which raises funds for scholarships. And so just reminding the people that I know that I'm running. Because even though those of us that are running or those of us that are interested in the campaign, like this becomes our lives, it's August 2nd. Most of the community doesn't pay attention to it. They're surprised to hear that, oh, you're running? Oh, I didn't know that. On every level. So just by, going to the places I normally go, the word is out. I'm a big bumper sticker guy. I was last time. So there's a lot of bumper stickers out there with my name on it. And I will, September is usually the time when I would start, going to the post offices, grocery stores, door to door, on the radio, in the newspapers, Facebook, which is a great tool.
We can't deny those.
Great tool for campaigning purposes, which I had not done before. So,
well, we're
that's what I
looking
do.
forward to your election, and you're getting in there so that we can get the kind of justice system we would like to see. And thank you very much for coming. And if anybody would like to see this show again, it will be on YouTube eventually, as soon as I learn how to do some of that stuff. And you can always go on our website, ehdems.com. Thank you very much for coming, Steve.
Thanks for having me, Phyllis. I enjoyed it.
Yes. We see? Didn't hurt.
No, not at all.